When to say no to the dealers. You've walked in and you've been shopping for your new car or slightly used car, and then all of a sudden you sit down and sign on the dotted line, or you're preparing to negotiate and you're sitting there with the car salesperson, and all of a sudden they hit you with, would you like some extended warranty? How about some paint protection film? Glass etching? What about rust proofing or key fob protection? How about those rims and tires? Those could get damaged. You hit a pothole, you could bend your rim. That could cost you thousands of dollars. Well, I've personally experienced all of these. And I want to talk to you a little bit about where the value is and when it's actually time to say no to the dealer. Because the dealers are there to make money. Remember, it's a business. It's a thriving business. And since 2019 to 2023, we've seen that it's an extremely thriving business with all sorts of opportunities to make money for the dealer. Not so much for you as the consumer. As a matter of fact, a lot of buyers have found that the average car price or the amount of weeks has literally gone up to pay off your vehicle, or the amount of months. For example, we used to be in a place where it was about 33 months to pay off your new vehicle. Now we're averaging up closer to 40 months to pay off that vehicle. Why? Well, first of all, people's dollars don't go as far as they used to. Inflation rate, tax hikes, of course. Now we're talking about MSRP increases that a lot of these dealers are hitting all of us with. And the reality is, a lot of people just don't have the money. It takes longer. Your dollars don't stretch as far. And of course, just the sheer add-ons cranks up the prices. We also know that during this last couple of years, manufacturers tend to shy away from selling their lower volume number of vehicles. They're literally more intended on trying to sell you the higher dollar vehicles with the higher tech, the over plumped up, bloated pickup trucks and large SUVs. And those were the vehicles that they put their chips and some of their hardware. When there was vehicles that were waiting on parts, they tended to push the higher volume cars or the higher margin cars out there. And so a lot of people got caught up in buying a car and you just need a car. So they ended up having to pay a lot more money than maybe even a lot of cases that they wanted to. And so that brings us to the point where it's bad enough that you're overpaying for the price of a lot of these new vehicles. But I want to talk about what it means when you take your new car and it's time to buy and they start throwing all these features at you. Well, first of all, I want to talk about, there's an example here we saw recently in Canada where a father took his daughter down to a car lot and she had her mindset on buying this Kia. It was brand new, a Kia, a Hyundai product, same family. And she wanted to go down there and she had this car in mind. And she actually said, basically the family decided that I just want the bare bones, the bare minimum, as advertised, price from, that's the car I want. But after sitting down with the dealer, they pretty much what they called tied sales. And of course, what that means is they generally said that you have to take these other features. It's just the way we sell this cars. It comes with rim protection, glass etching, key fob protection system, of course, electronics. And of course, they added on all these extras to the tune of many thousands of extra dollars on top of the base price that they were willing to pay for the car. It was quite troubling to me when I hear this, that they said you have to take these features because that's just the only way we sell it. Well, we obviously know that they went to the actual upstream, so the Hyundai Canada said we actually don't participate in that, and that's administered by local dealers only. We're kind of isolated from that, if you will. But, clearly we're in a place of, accountability is lacking these days. Everybody's trying to rip a dollar out of your pocket. And so I want to talk about some of those features and things that you're going to be hit with when you sit down to sign on the dotted line. So you don't want to be hit with some of these extra charges. For example, you take your new car and they say, well, you can get rim and tire protection. So you hit a pothole, sure, absolutely. That can have an impact. And to damage a rim is often quite costly. However, there's lots of great third-party shops out there that usually do a lot of these repairs for 200, 300, 400% less than they're going to include in their market, in the markup of their vehicle. So while it's not necessarily the worst level of protection that you can buy, the fact remains is buying rim protection at the dealer is usually going to cost you a significant amount of money. Now, another thing I want to talk about is rust proofing. You see, a lot of modern day vehicles now are built quite well. A lot of modern day vehicles are built with, plastics, composites, obviously even aluminum, and a lot of other parts that generally don't need a lot of protection. They don't rust, they don't rot away like the old iron vehicles that we seen many years ago. And so to spend a whole ton of money on rust protection when the undercarriage of your car is plastic is pretty much a moot point and a waste of money. So rust protection is not value added anymore. Maybe there was a time when it was. If it buys you an extra couple of years before the vehicle starts to rot away, they used to put undercoating, or they'd spray in different holes. They'd fire within the chassis. I used to do that actually. When I started out in the automotive business, before I got into selling cars, I started in the detail shop, and I quickly learned that what they do is rust protection. They take this little straw and it usually spray this little yellow goop in there. And so if you ever seen a new car from back in the 90s, you probably see there's little holes, under the hood. They lift up the hood and they'd put there's little holes and stuff they'd spray into there with a straw and this yellow stuff. And it was supposed to inhibit rust. And they'd spray it in a few different random spots, find some areas that they could basically plug it into, and that would apparently prevent rust from growing. Now, that in itself, again, isn't really that important anymore. The metallurgy is much better in modern day vehicles. And quite frankly, that's going to take care of that. The reality is very few people keep their cars more than 5 years historically now. And so even by the time they start to rust, even if you didn't treat it, and even if they were of the lowest grade metals, you're probably still in an okay spot. Now, the worst rusting vehicles I have to add are some of the full-size pickup trucks. Ironically, the most expensive vehicles on the market. For example, full-size Dodge Rams. When's the last time you haven't seen a Ram rusted out, the rear quarters rusting out, or the bottom of the door ledges, or of course the base of the cab? So rust protection on certain vehicles might make sense, but for the most part, when you're talking about a unibody vehicle, this isn't unibody by the way, but generally unibody vehicles, it's not going to be a big savings. It's not going to help you a whole lot to go ahead and rust proof that. So again, another add-on. Then they talk about things like key fobs. I mean, you get a key fob like this, it's got a lot of electronics in it. Yes, it does. There's a battery, there's a chip in there, and there's a lot of tech actually going on here. Now, I've always struggled with that because you could always, key fob protection. I mean, for a few $100s, you can usually order a new key fob directly from the OEM or the manufacturer if you had one actually croak on you. So what are these dealers actually going to give you for key fob protection? Put a battery that's worth about $4 in your key fob, every 4 or 5 years? That's what my, history tells me that all they're going to do for you. If you sink one in the lake, for example, they're going to ship in, order one in, and 9 times out of 10, that doesn't happen. And it's like insurance. They're going to risk 100 people are spending on this key fob protection. Maybe 5 people might need to collect on it. So the money is definitely in the bank. And of course, these OEMs are definitely capitalizing on that, even if they have to replace one. So from my perspective, if you need a new key fob, you order directly from the dealer. Otherwise, you know what? Again, another pointless venture. Glass etching, another pointless expenditure. I was at a dealer recently. I went and I was exploring, maybe purchasing a new Rubicon Jeep. They had a Wrangler, had super low miles on it, slightly used, and they were trying to pitch me on glass etching and AMVIC fees. And I said, I'll have none of that. And they said, well, it's mandatory. We have to put it on. Well, it's mandatory to you. It's not mandatory to me. So I pushed back. They weren't having it. I walked out the door. The next day, the sales guy texts me, you know what? I know you felt pretty strongly about the glass etching, so we'll wipe that cost off the top. They're blowing smoke up, everybody, because at the end of the day, then they just put that somewhere else into the base price of the vehicle. So at the end of the day, they think they're going to try to get it out of you. That's where you've got to get these numbers, hard dollars up front before you start negotiating on these extras so that they can't come back on you later and start adding those in or somehow blending them into the price of the car. Glass etching is pointless. Well, there's some dealers will tell you that they've had experience where police have retrieved stolen vehicles. Look, I mean, it's all over the news. Look at what you're seeing in Ontario and Eastern Canada, Eastern United States. People, they wake up and their new Lexus RX is gone, sailed, and it's adios. And so by the time they figure out where it is, they track it down, it's already on a shipping container heading overseas. 9 times out of 10, that's where it's gone, and your glass etching went bye-bye with it. It's on the glass in that sea can across the ocean. So again, pointless venture. Most of these extras are pointless. You know, they also try to sell you sometimes on floor mats. You know, you get floor mats, you want to put some upgraded heavy-duty all-weather floor mats in there. Is that good value? I think it could be, but never from the dealer. Again, they're not doing you any favors. They're always going to put on their 20 and 40% markup, maybe 100% markup. So I do agree in all-weather, but I put some in our Mercedes, I put some in my Jaguar, I put some in different cars, but you can go shopping. It's a great stocking stuffer even, right? Somebody, say your spouse buys a new Mercedes, then you can go on the shopping spree, and for next Christmas, you come up with this all-weather mats. It's a great stocking stuffer, and you can probably get a much better deal when you go third party. Just look online, look on Amazon. There's lots of great options out there. Another one, paint protection film. Usually what they'll do is they'll offer, 18 inches of hood, the front fender, sometimes the A-pillars here they'll offer up, sometimes the rocker panels, or the back side of the mirror. This car doesn't have mirrors, but there's usually a mirror on there, and they'll put the back side of the mirror. Sometimes they'll put a little extra behind here as well. And paint protection film, I do stand by. I really believe it. The problem is it's not once and done. Paint protection film often means that you got to reapply it in 5 years. I would rip it off because it starts to yellow harden, and it starts to actually adhere to the paint. It's a risk to damaging the paint underneath. But generally, I do agree with paint protection film. The downside is the dealers, like we recently bought a new Toyota Camry. This is a classic example. They offered us a lower grade, thinner product because I asked them the specifications of what they were offering when they actually asked us if we wanted it. And so they told us what the product line was. I'm not going to throw that under the bus, but they also said they only put 18 inches. They didn't do A-pillars. All they did was backs of the mirrors, the front, the nose, as well as just that 18 inches of leading edge of the fender. So they did a little bit, and the quote was $2,200. Okay. So we said, no, that's good. Thank you very much. Make sure the car's clean. We'll pick it up on Wednesday. We grabbed the keys. We drove the car and made an appointment with a local supplier, a local tint and paint protection film shop, and we put it in there, and they did more. So they did 24 inch of all of that, the front bumper, the mirrors, A-pillars, leading edge of roof line, as well as rocker panels. And they also did somewhere halfway up the door, which wasn't even, and that was an extra that they just said, we got the material, we'll do it. And they did all of that for about $1,100, and it was the better product that I prefer that has, self-healing coat on it. So you got a better product for half the money and more coverage. So again, you have to shop around. Now, is there a time and a place to take the extras for what the dealers are throwing at you? There could very well be. My experience has been extended warranty or certified pre-owned warranties often usually go right to the manufacturer. Sometimes the dealers are trying to quick and dirty a garbage warranty that's full of holes and clauses that you won't be able to collect on when you actually need it. Or some of the third-party warranties, you leave and then you decide, well, I'll decide later on. And then you get one of these third-party warranties, and trust me, I've experienced this firsthand. A lot of them, again, have full of holes in their warranty, and when it comes time to actually call on it, then they say, well, actually, that little widget wasn't part of that whole piece. No, we can't replace that. Refused, claim, boom, stamp. And so, honestly, if you're talking about the add-ons, depending on the vehicle, if you were buying a Lexus or a Toyota or a Honda, I'd probably steer away from any extended warranties. Those cars traditionally have a pretty solid reputation for reliability. If you're going to buy yourself a Maserati, maybe a Jaguar, possibly a Range Rover, even a BMW, Audi, Benz, premium cars, luxury car segment, the parts can be extremely expensive. Those are vehicles I would seriously consider what the factory is offering up for warranty options. I would certainly explore that and see whether the cost, whether it outweighs and the balance is there, and it's whether it's worth actually taking that. But often I would consider extending that warranty, at least to get you 5 years instead of the standard 3 years warranty. That way it gets you a little further out, and you have options of whether you want to keep that car or not. A lot of these cars or these warranties you want to actually ask too if it's transferable, because maybe you're 3 years out and you're like, yeah, I'm kind of done with this car, but I still have some warranty. Make sure it's transferable so that you're able to pitch that to the next buyer. Then when you're selling the car, you can say, look, yeah, it still has 2 years warranty left on it. So it's a good peace of mind. It's a good selling feature. A lot of people like warranty. I'm not going to kid you. So even to get you to 5 years or beyond sometimes is the peace of mind that some people love. So that's probably one of the few things I would literally take from the dealer. Now, there might be a few other widgets that you could consider, whether it's specific to the brand. Maybe it's a cosmetic item that you really can't do outside of that. So you're buying a supercar, an exotic car or something. There's probably some cars like that you don't want to start putting aftermarket cheesy parts on, because it actually could hurt the value of that car. So if you're buying a very exclusive type of vehicle, maybe consider buying that, it's a part that you're going to want to add, but for example, going aftermarket will crush its value. Definitely reconsider that. But for the most part, 9 times out of 10, buying a lot of these extras are pad. That's fluff. That's dealer markup. And they realize that for the most part, people are not going to take up on a lot of these widgets. Unfortunately, we even got suckered in a few years ago. We bought our Mercedes and they asked us, hey, we'll say this windshield protection package, it gets you 5 free windshields in the next 5 years. Guess what? We ended up replacing one, and it was money out the door. And the windshield turned out, because there's no heads-up display on it, and it doesn't have the internal sensors on it. It was a very basic windshield. Could have bought the windshield for $250 anyway at a local shop, and it cost us $800 for that extra warranty. So guess what? We learned the hard way. Wasn't worth it. And really, if you do the numbers, do the math, do the research on this, more often than not, you're better off just skipping most of the dealer add-ons. And what's even worse is when they're telling you, like Hyundai, Kia, we're telling these customers that they had to take these extras. That's a red flag right there. That's when I don't walk away. I seriously run away. So you definitely don't want to get trapped up in that. So when is it time to say no to the dealer? When they're hitting you with the extras. And with all of that said, you definitely want to check out why to avoid these car buying mistakes that have caught so many people. I hope to see each and every one of you on the next one. We'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.